Today I'm going to show you I went from this to that. If only cabin building could be this easy, but no, we have to rewind back a little bit and go back about 3 weeks prior to that. So first of all, I got all the material just delivered in front of my house.
So there it is. Beautiful 1x8 tongue and groove. Allez, c'est parti!
It's been a while since we talked about this, but everything you see in this cabin, I have brought this way, up that hill, by myself, all the way to that building site.
Up!
I haven't done the math, but honestly, I would be curious to know how many tons of materials have I hauled all the way up that way.
I think I have about 200 of them, and I just got 5 on that trip, so I think that I'm looking at 40 trips up and down, if my math's correct, so that's nice.
So I clearly didn't have the motivation to get everything up in one go, so I just stacked a bunch, enough to get started. But the first thing I had to tackle is that I needed to change the blade on the miter saw, because we've been using a 32T's blade, which is more like for rough framing, but now that we're going to start tackling finishing materials, a 100T's blade is really needed to get that nice smooth finish.
Oh wow. Can't believe that we're here. Tongue and groove installation. Thought this day would never come.
Obviously, the first plank is going to be the most important one, so it's very, very crucial to set it completely level, even if you have to use, a shim or something, because this should simplify, in theory, the rest of the installation. And for your information, that's what I'm using for nails, so 16 gauge finished nail, 1 3/4 of an inch long. The process of installing tongue and groove is fairly repetitive and tedious. I mean, it's all about just making the right measurement, cutting it, and then fitting it into place, and I'm nailing it in every single stud to make sure that I have a strong support to my framing. Well, here might be maybe the most challenging part about tongue and groove installing, which is working around openings, meaning all your electrical box and such. I typically use a small piece of tongue and groove as a guide where I can actually mark the bottom of my opening, and then that's the easiest way to transfer that measurement onto the actual full length piece and then cutting that off. Then it's a matter of like making sure that it fits. If it doesn't, you can always go back and adjust the cut. Okay, so this is actually a pretty important point. So in order to not waste tongue and groove bolt, you can actually let them end in between studs. But if you do that, it might be a struggle to put the one above it, as you see me struggling right now.
Oh la la!
So I made it work by kind of pushing the ball from behind it, but I decided that from this point on, I would just end all the balls at the stud directly to make my life easier.
Allez! Ben voilà! C'était pas si dur!
Let's talk about today's sponsor, BLUETTI. They have provided me with their latest battery, the AC240. It has an output of 2,400 watt, a capacity of 1,536 watt hour, and a wide range of output connectivity such as 12-volt DC outlets, 2 USB-A, 2 USB-C, 1 NEMA outlet, which is for boats or RVs, and 2 AC outlets. It has a battery suspension port on one side if you need more capacity. On the input side, you will find a charger port, but also a parallel port if you wanted to connect 2 AC240 together and get a 4,800 watt output capacity. Even with all these features, the BLUETTI AC240 can be carried around to where you will need it. I started using it for my basic charging needs while building my cabin, such as charging my GoPro, my drone controller, the drone itself, and even my phone. It's also been very useful to charge the multiple batteries of my power tools as I go through several batteries a day. What I like the most is that you can easily see how much output the BLUETTI AC240 is producing, about 127 watt here charging my 2 tool batteries, and it also tells you how long you have left before it runs out. Here about 15 hours based on the 95% charge I have left. I have also used it to power some LED lights in the cabin as it can get pretty dark in there. I mean, I had no doubt that this unit would excel when it came to charging and running small equipment, but do you think it would be strong enough to run my table saw, for example? Well, stay tuned and we will have a little experiment later in this video about this. Here is something I also wanted to detail for you instead of just fast forwarding through it. So cutting your tongue and groove around a round opening. And so the most important thing is what you see me do here, where I really spend a lot of time taking all my measurement. After that, it turned out that the opening needed to be 6 inches in diameter, which is exactly the size of this hole saw. and that allowed me to mark it properly, and then I used a jigsaw to cut that. And then you pretty much hope that it's gonna fit on the first try, and luckily it did.
Ah, wow, premier coup. Ah ouais, nickel.
The challenge with these openings is that usually they will overlap over several pieces of tongue and groove, so you'll have to make sure that you do the correct lower cut and the correct upper cut. It's definitely going to take some tryings, but you'll see that it's not that difficult. So when I started installing the tongue and groove on the other sidewall, obviously I wanted to make sure that it would be exactly at the same level as the other sidewall I had already done, because those tongue and groove are eventually going to be meeting at the front wall, and I want them to be, well, meeting at the same spot. So using a laser, I was able to verify on both sides that my tongue and groove planks were positioned correctly before I went on and continued installing that wall. At the ceiling, you can see that I actually left the furring strip shawl on purpose so that I was able to install my last piece of tongue groove up the wall fairly easily, but now was the time to add those little pieces.
Putain, mais c'est quoi ce merdier?
Well, I'm sorry you had to see this, but like every one of you guys, sometimes I just lose my cool. I mean, cabin building is a stressful endeavor. Alright, back to it. So for the first ceiling ball, I decided to remove half of the groove, and that's because it just makes for like a tighter fit when I put it against the furring strip. And also in that case, because I don't really have anything to block it into, I do have to face nail it, but I mean honestly, who's gonna see those nails? Oh, the ceiling installation is fun because now you have gravity sort of working against you.
Ah, come on.
So just like the first board on the floor, the first ceiling board is extremely important because it will set everything for the rest of your ceiling.
Non, ah, je l'ai mis trop bas là. Ah putain. Comment il faut que je l'enlève? Ah, le couillon.
And it turned out that this little ball was actually diving down and was totally not in line with the long ball that I had first installed, so it was absolutely important to remove it. So this is what I should have done, which is put the level and strike a line to where I should be placed exactly. And also just to show you, so all my light spots in this cabin, I have 10 of them, and they're all going to be 6-inch recessed lights. And so once again, I just did the same exact method as I showed you earlier to prep having all those holes where those light are going to be placed. So installing the planks on the ceiling alone is kind of a complete nightmare, especially if the ball has any kind of like bow in it. I mean, you're done. It's gonna, you're gonna get one side in, the other side is gonna pop out, and then it's gonna end up falling, and it's just never ending. So then it becomes pretty tempting to become really picky and pick the balls that are only perfectly straight. But if you start doing that, you'll probably be shocked to realize that you won't actually have that many straight, perfect balls. So then you'll have no other choice than working with what you have, and it's gonna be really frustrating. I can tell you that.
Ah putain. Ah, je te jure.
So to not completely lose it, what I started doing is really just stacking one side, so at least I could go back down, move my ladder, and work on the other side. Here I'll have a hanging light in the kitchen, and so to deal with that, you actually have to use what's called a pancake electrical box. It's just kind of a regular electrical box, but it gets completely screwed into your framing, and so it can hold a certain weight. That's the same kind of box I will use on the exact same opposite side for a ceiling fan. All you have to make sure is that it will be flush with your finished material, so I had to like shim it a little bit with something so that it would sit perfectly flush with my tongue groove.
Oh, parfait. Regarde-moi ça.
now is the time to truly test what the AC240 is capable of. A table saw is a common tool for any DIYer, so let's see if the BLUETTI can handle it. Alright, so let's just turn it on, and well, it had absolutely no problem, and that's probably thanks to the 3600 watt lifting mode of this battery. Because while this table saw is operating at about 1000 watt, as you can see, sometimes these power tools can pull a lot more power when they're just starting up their motor. So I also took the opportunity to get a few cuts done, which is taking us to the main advantage of this AC240, and it is that it's the world's first IP65 outdoor portable power station. So here is some dust right on the battery, and here's some more. Well, that's nothing to be worried about, and which is great for anyone looking for a rugged outdoor battery. I mean, look at that. You can just blow it off, and the AC240 is just good to go. Alright, that's kind of nerve-wracking, but IP65 also means that it can handle some rain, so I went and grabbed my garden hose and decided to create a nice rain shower on the unit. Let's just imagine that you went camping and then you forgot the battery outside and it started raining. Well, the good news is that it's going to be just fine. I mean, all you have to do is get that water out of there, probably still take a minute to properly dry the parts, but after that, you're good to turn it back on and start using it. I mean, how cool is that? And the last thing I wanted to mention is the incredibly fast charging ability of this unit. It can pull more than 2000 watt while charging, which means that you can pretty much get to 80% charge in only about 45 minutes. I mean, that's pretty incredible. So thank you BLUETTI for sponsoring this video, and I invite you to check the link in the description if you want to learn more about this battery. Alright, so to finish the tongue and groove installation, I did install a flat 1x4 directly under the ridge beam, and then I cutted the edge of the piece of tongue and groove like 45 degrees, and I installed that directly onto that 1x4, and that's kind of how I completely finished the ceiling of the cabin.
It's hard to believe that I'm getting to this point where all the inside walls of the cabins are covered with tongue and groove. I mean, I'm beyond excited to see it finished that way. That really means that I'm getting closer and closer to finishing this cabin, even though I know I still have so much, but it feels great.
In the next episode, you will see me attempt to build my own shower pane. Yes, I decided that I will build it from scratch. I don't know if that was a good idea, so let's find out. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you there.